Well, looks like it's working. That's good. Hello, everyone. Today is the 18th of March, 2021. I'm Roy Potter, and as always, when I put up something on Odyssey and LBRY TV, I come here and tell you it's there. And why is that? Because it's something I can't talk about on YouTube. Actually, I've made a few mistakes. Mistakes by what I mean by that is by saying some things I probably shouldn't have in some of the recent videos I've done. So I'm imagining I've probably already crossed the line again, but I haven't seen any action taken yet. Maybe I'll get lucky. When I was talking about some of those things on those last couple of videos, I kind of got off and took some risks that I probably shouldn't have. But at any rate, in the link in the description box below is a link to the newest video that I've done, and it's just a commentary again. It's not too long; it's about 18 minutes long, talking about some events that are occurring now and some of the experiences I'm having with our modern medical procedures. Put it that way, okay? So please go look at that. It is critical. I don't have any links to tell you where to go to find out about some of the things that I talk about in there. Uh, because you could find them if you just look them up anyway. They're on different platforms that are out there right now, Twitter and YouTube, and of course Infowars and others. Anyway, so you'll probably know what I'm talking about. But I'm giving you some of the information that I've experienced just in the last few days. Okay. Also, I wanted to say, oh, and again, as I say on this video there, I'm using these lights with my phone camera, and I don't have a white balance adjustment on my camera, so I look really red or yellow or whatever, and it's just because of the light. So please refrain from commenting about that. No, I haven't started drinking any scotch yet. it's it's not that it's too early; it's just I haven't gotten around to it yet. And I did go out for some exercise. I went out for about a 2 mile run, and so I am a little flustered from that. But at any rate, the coloring is just mainly because of the lights. I also wanted to say I've asked some close friends uh, to give me some advice on some of the spiritual and historically based religious information that I've been willing to put out here lately. And as I said in those videos, actually, as I've said in most of my videos, my intent is not to harm anyone's faith or to attack it or to weaken it or to say you're wrong or right. As I said in my book, The Crimson Thread, I should read a portion of it for you here, but maybe I'll do that a little later. Not this one because I've got that. Hello, Ms. Cat. How you doing? Thank you for being a mod. Thank you so much, and blessings to you. So, uh, I have very spiritual, very deep spiritual commitments, understandings, things like that. Not that I'm perfect. My gosh, I'm probably one of the worst sinners in the world because I know better. You know what I mean? If you do things in ignorance, not even in ignorance, if you just don't know, let's just put it that way, and you do something bad or a sin or whatever, it's not as serious, if at all, other than you have to learn, you have to know. Than if you know something's bad and you do it anyway. Well, I fall in that category more often than I would like to admit, but it's true. So I'm not coming from a point of view when I talk about these things as I'm better than anybody else or that I even know more than you, especially on a spiritual level. It's just come through so many years of study. That's all it is. So normally when I talk about things, I introduce I don't rely on just historical information for my understandings. I also look at it from a spiritual point of view. And that goes just about with everything: politics, science, obviously history, and of course, when we talk about Bible things. Shalom to you, Pam, too. Shalom to you. Um, I can't help it. That's what it is. But one thing that I can assure you, as I said in my book, The Crimson Thread, I approach things with all of that information coming in. A lot of times, you'll notice when I'm talking about a subject, I'll think of something and I'll bring it into the conversation. Then I'll think of something else and I'll bring it in. It's kind of distracting, but it just shows you that I got a lot of information in my files right in here. So what happens is I'm giving you information based upon a lot of study. I'm never going to tell you that you have to believe what I say or you're going to hell or that God's going to judge you for not believing me or whatever. I believe in even in religious things, especially when we're talking about ancient writings and ancient beliefs. We have to be able to make sure that we're not being led down a path because of mere tradition, of mere belief. Um, and I could say something about that scripturally, which I won't do right now. But what I will say is that historical method, as I mentioned, and I think in one of my last videos on YouTube, historical method and historiography and those types of disciplines, techniques, methods in looking into historical things is very important. And especially in the scriptures, as I've talked about a lot, where you don't understand the euphemisms of 2,000 years ago. In other words, like I've often talked about, if you said today, because of a person who is kind of floundering in their speech for whatever reason, maybe they're embarrassed, maybe they can't quite get the thought out or whatever, and you'll just say to them, "What's the matter with you? Has the cat got your tongue?" That's a euphemism of our time. 1,000 years from now, people are going to be reading that and say, "My gosh, they had cats grabbing their tongues." You see what I'm saying? And those are the types of things you find in euphemisms, and a lot of times they don't mean what you think they do. Unblock you on Twitter. I don't know who you are, Eller. Anyway, I'll see what sometimes I don't do that. I've noticed I've had a lot of problems with blocking people that I didn't block. I don't know what's going on half the time on Twitter. I think that's subversion by the people at Twitter, actually. So, at any rate, what am I trying to tell you? What I'm trying to tell you is that I've asked some people if I've gone too far too fast with people, and maybe that's the case. Maybe I've gone too far. Uh, Not that I'm unsure of where I am. I mean, I'm always open to correction, but you're going to have to be pretty sophisticated. You'd have to have a lot of knowledge and a lot of understanding and be able. There's an old saying. If Pardon me if there are any Jews out here, I want to get thrown off YouTube for this, but if you have 5 Jews, or if you have 3 Jews sitting together talking about a subject, you're going to have 5 opinions. Have you ever heard that? Well, there's a lot of truth to that. If you've ever been, especially when you're getting down to scriptural arguments and stuff like that. So, I'm not averse to being corrected, but I'm not going to fold just because somebody says I have to believe something because Paul said it, the Apostle Paul. Okay, I'm not going to do that. All right, I'm going to balance it against a lot of other things, and history is one of them. You can say that, for instance, a comet fell on Rome in 200 A.D. and you have to believe it because this says so. Well, I'm going to go check some things. I'm going to find out, if historically it can be verified. Now, I realize there are some problems in history, and I've said that before. Josephus is a perfect example. He didn't say things the way they really were in some situations because he was answering to his Roman masters, the Flavians, the emperor, and he didn't want to have his head cut off. So you have to, well, I can't just spit it out, and that's what I'm explaining now, okay? So you have to balance it against other evidences, and while it doesn't mean exactly this, the definition of, well, faith is the substance of things hoped for, the evidence of things unseen. There's nothing wrong with having evidence and substance, and I know those aren't quite what the Greek means, but it's close enough for our work here. All right. So the bottom line is this, and I don't know where I'm going to go with it. I don't know how deep I should go. I'm not trying to hide anything from anybody. I'm not trying to force anything on anybody. What I do want to do is have people want to ask questions because that's legitimate. Thomas Jefferson, when he had a daughter that was going to school in France, and I don't remember exactly how it came about, but basically she wrote him and said, well, what do I do about this? So, should I question God? Should I question the scriptures? It was something like that. And Thomas Jefferson wrote her back and said, look, honey, God isn't so small that he feels slighted or rejected because you want to know the answer to a question. He's not like that. And James said it himself. James, the apostle, the brother of Jesus, wrote it down. He says, if you have a question, go ahead and ask it. Ask it of God, who giveth to all men liberally and upbraideth not. In other words, if you ask, he's not going to say, you dumb cluck, what are you asking me that question for? He's not going to upbraid you for asking a legitimate question, even if it appears to be questioning whatever you're told to believe. As a matter of fact, those are the things you should probably question more than anything else. No, John was not Jesus's twin, but I'm glad you asked that question. See, that's one of the things I'd like to get into. And my book, The Crimson Thread, is very clear on a lot of this, but unfortunately, it's out of print. And I even said in the book, I said I don't want to do anybody an injury, and I probably did, but that wasn't my intent. Jesus didn't tell everybody, you know, he wasn't conveying everything he wanted to everyone. On certain things, he only told it to those that were closest to him, where he could tell them, right? It's not for them to know, it's just for you to know. When he was talking to them, the disciples, particularly the 12, there were others, Mary Magdalene was that way as well. Wasn't that he was trying to hide it from anybody, it's that sometimes they would turn and rend you. Because it says, if you cast your pearls before swine, you take a risk, because those who don't want to receive it may turn and rend you, may attack you for it. Well, trust me, that happens. Now, I don't mind getting attacked. That's not the issue. The issue is, for me, that I don't want to harm you. So, again, anything that I tell you to do, as far as doing the research and all that, I'm serious. Go do it on your own. I'm going to give you a little bit of information here and there. And this thing on the Virgin Mary, I knew was going to blow some people out of the water. I knew it would. And there's more than that. There's much more than that. But I want you to go and examine these things, and to consider what it is that the scriptures are really telling you. The secrets are secret. And it's because, again, children can only digest milk. They can't digest the meat. And so we have to take these things a step at a time. Isaiah said it in another way. Give it unto them line upon line, precept upon precept. Here a little and there a little. Don't overwhelm them. Don't overwhelm the sheep. Don't overwhelm the flock. Don't overwhelm the students. And I may do that once in a while, and I apologize for it. It's kind of like if you're in first grade, it's a really good example. If you're in first grade and the teacher says, okay, students, I know you don't know how to add 2 and 2 yet, but you're going to have to do this problem in calculus up here, okay? You're just going to have to do it. You're just going to have to do it. Well, that's not fair. And I recognize that. Okay, I do. I recognize it. So, I want, and I try to make my presentations so that people at different levels of, first of all, understanding of spiritual development, etc., can grasp it at the level that they're at. And sometimes I don't do a very good job, and I hurt some people, and I don't mean to do that. So yeah, a concordance is very helpful in dissecting words. As a matter of fact, I use a principle, dissection. It says in the New Testament, it says you must be able to rightly divide the Word of God. They're not kidding. It's called, in ancient rabbinic hermeneutics and techniques, it's called notarikon. And that's exactly right. And I've talked about dividing the words up into their individual letters to get their meanings, okay? And there's a lot of truth to that. So it's more than on one level, okay? And I've talked about pardes and paradise and all that before, and some people are saying, why? Well, what are you talking about? What? Why is John called the one Jesus loved? Yes. So is Mary Magdalene. Did you know that? Mary Magdalene was the one that Jesus loved. As a matter of fact, I've talked about it several times in the Gospel of Philip, which is a Gnostic gospel, but it's just because it didn't make it into the canon. It talks right in there that the disciples are, and actually it's in the Gospel of Thomas too, I think. Um, the apostles are there, and Mary Magdalene's there, and Jesus is paying a lot of attention to Mary. Okay, and the apostles say to him, what, you know, why do you love Mary more than us? And and they were serious. And then Jesus says, why do I love her more than you? Are you kidding? Are you kidding? Look at her. Why shouldn't I love her more than you? And people miss the nuances there. But at any rate, uh, so there's a lot to be taken into consideration. A lot of what I consider to be not mistakes, but misunderstandings. Sometimes deliberate errors, but more often than not mistakes over 2,000 years in understanding things. Okay, that's all I've got today. Again, I'll try to do a little better. Some of my friends said that maybe what I should do is start up a separate account where I'm not giving it out to the world, just certain people that want to go. But to get that information to you, I'd have to give you a website, and then everybody could go there anyway. So now I'm thinking, well, that's not the way to go about it. But we'll kind of give it some thought. And for those of you that I've offended, that I've maybe hurt your faith a little bit, the bottom line is that God is the giver of well, a lot of things. He's the great giver. He's the gift giver. And in the end, if your heart is right, you're going to find the truth eventually anyway. I don't care what anybody tells you. Okay, if your heart is right, and there are people who'll disagree with that, but if your heart is right, if you really want to know the truth, at some point in time, at the scriptures say He will do it in His own time and in His own way. You will be given it. Okay, it will happen. All right. All right. I'm going to let you go. Please go watch the video that's in the description box below. It talks about some of the things that are going on right now. Ladies and gentlemen, we're heading into some bad, bad waters. I mean, we've known it, but they're coming. The demons are here, and they're coming, and they're coming. They're not holding back now. They're not holding back, and you need to know what you're up against. All right? Okay. Marfugel's Gold. Roy is starting a secret society channel. That's what I'm worried about. I don't want it to seem like that's what it is. But Jesus did say there were some disciples that He could tell things to that He couldn't tell the general population. He couldn't tell the general disciples, but He could tell His close disciples, the apostles, for instance. And that's just the way it is. It's not really a secret thing. It's not like we're doing it to get gain. That was the problem with Cain. He killed to get gain. He had a secret society to get gain, to take advantage of people, to take power and money, even children, sacrificing and things like that. And we're seeing that today. My objective is not to do that. My objective is that we can talk about the meat of the gospel, the meat of the truth of God's kingdom, of God's word, without hurting those who can only digest milk. That's all. All right. Okay, everybody, go take a look at what's in the description box, and I'll check that out. Okay, I'll see if I can find you. I'll see if you're blocked, and if you are there, what's the name of it again? God always wins. I'll see where you are. Okay, I'll see if I can find it. Out here, everybody. See you later. Take care.